Hi guys, and welcome to my channel, or hello again if you're returning back to me. Today I'm going to be doing another artistic makeup look, and I'm going to be recreating this peacock eye makeup look that I posted a couple of weeks ago over on Instagram. Absolutely love this look. It's actually one of my favourite ones that I have done, and it's actually probably one of the most simple. So without rambling on anymore, let's get into it. Okay, so to start this look off, I've already just done this eye, which I always do in just a simpler version of the colours that I use on the artistic eye, because I like to do both. And I'm just going to start this one off with just prepping my eyelid using the Instant Anti-Age Eraser Eye by Maybelline, and I'm just going to pat that all over the lid. Just gets rid of any veins or any different discoloration that you have in your eyelid, just so that when the colours go on they look nice and it's a nice blank canvas for them to lay onto. So once the concealer's done, I am just setting it with the RCMA translucent powder, and I'm just popping that all over where I've put the concealer just to set it in place. And then the eyeshadows will glide over it a lot easier than if it was sticky. Okay, so now you have the base in place. I am just going to be using the Morphe 35B palette to kick this look off, and I am just going to be taking the bright green shade, and I'm just going to be putting that in the crease and right up to the brow bone. You will see that I use the Morphe 35B palette for a majority of these looks, just because they've got so many different bright colours in, and I absolutely love the palette. The pigment is perfect for artwork, and it's so reasonably priced as well. So if you go through it extremely quickly, it doesn't really matter because you can pick them up easily enough. Absolutely love them. And I'm just keep adding just more and more of that green just to build the colour up into the crease, and then I'm just pulling it all the way up to the brow bone, just blending it all nicely in. Then just to darken it up a little bit more, I am then just taking this shade from the Morphe 35B again, and I'm just going to pop that into the crease just to darken it up just a little bit. Just going to add a little bit more. I always tap the excess off because it's always good to have less and build it up than to have too much in the beginning. It's a lot harder to take away. So once those are nicely blended together, I'm then just taking a little brush and the concealer that I used to set the lid, and I'm then just going to cut out a half cut crease. Then once I've carved out just a rough guide to the cut crease, I am just going to set it with the RCMA powder that I used before and just pop it all over where I've put the concealer. Then taking the BH Cosmetics 104 brush, I'm then just going to go into the bright green shimmer shade on the 35B, and I'm just going to pop that into the corner of my eye at the start of the cut crease. And I'm just going to blend that all over the cut crease, just building it up so it's nice and bright. Then taking a big fluffy brush, so I'm using the BH Cosmetics 101 brush. I'm then going to go in with the original green shade that we used on the underneath, and I'm just going to use that to blend the corner into the cut crease. So now we have the underneath and the base all finished. It's now time to start on the peacock, and for that I am using the BH Cosmetics 106 brush, which for reference is just a really tiny pointed liner brush, and I'm taking some concealer and I'm just going to draw the basic shape of the body and the head of the peacock. Right, so just starting off, I'm going to start with the head of the peacock, and I'm just going to do a little round circle here just for his head. It doesn't matter if you go wrong, because you can just go back in with the green and just correct any shapes that you've done wrong. And then once you've got the head in place, it's now time to do the neck and the body. And for the body, you just want to literally just draw a line slightly out, give him a little bit of a belly, a neck and a belly all the way down. So you just go in down and a little bit out at the bottom. Then you're just bringing that round and then joining that up so it's his body and neck down the back. Right, so once you have that in place, you then just want to take the bright blue shade from the 35B palette, and then I'm just taking another fine liner brush and I'm just going to pack that blue all over the shape that we've made. I haven't set the concealer because I want this to be really bright, so by not setting it, I can sort of pack it on. It makes it a lot stickier, whereas I set it when I want to blend. There's not too much pressure with this, because any mistake you make, you can go back over with the green and you can correct the shape, so it's not too major if something goes wrong. Just take your time with it, there's no rush. And I'm just covering the peacock in all of the same blue at the moment. Right, so now we have the basic shape of the head and the body of the peacock. We're just going to add some life to it by adding some shading. So taking the 35B palette again, this very dark blue shade just here, I'm going to take that and I'm just going to blend that on the outer edge of the peacock into the middle. Like I said, it's always best to add less because it's a lot easier to add than to take away. So just use your hand just to dab it out on first, just so you know what sort of pigment you're working with, because it'd be a shame to ruin it all now. And I'm just putting the dark on the outer edge of the peacock and around the top of his head. And then I'm just blending that into the lighter blue. I'm actually going to dip back into the lighter blue and then just put some of that over the edge where it's blending in together. And I'm just using the same brush for that because I find it a lot easier to blend the colours in when you're using the same brush, because both colours are on the brush, so it's a lot easier. I feel like shading is really where these looks come to life. All I do is basic shapes with concealer, I colour them in with eyeshadows, and then it's the shading that really makes them pop. So I do think that's where it counts. So now you've got the darker blue on the outer edge, you can see it's already starting to look a little bit more 3D. I'm then going to take the white from the Morphe 35B palette, and I'm going to take this on the same brush that we're using because it's got blue on it slightly, and I'm just going to pop that onto the other edge, so opposite to where we put the dark. And I'm just going to pop that along the side, and I'm just going to blend that in to the other side. Like so. So as you can see, it's already starting to look a lot more 3D now. Okay, so now just dipping back into the concealer, and I am using this Morphe M217 bent liner brush, and I'm just going to dip that into the concealer, and then I'm just going to draw the little beak on the end of the head. Fine liner brushes are really what you want to be using. And I'm just doing that little bit by little bit. And once I've got the concealer in place, and then I'm just going to dip into the white off of the Morphe 35B again. I'm just going to pack that over where I've put the concealer, just to make his beak. Then just using the same brush that I just used, going back into the blue of the peacock, I'm just going to tidy his head up a little bit where I've overran with the beak. And then I'm just going to get a another little brush, a clean brush, and I'm just going to take a little bit of the green that's underneath, and I'm just going to tuck under the beak just to make it a little bit thinner, because I've gone a little bit thicker than I'd like. Okay, so going back to the bent liner brush we used before, I'm just taking the dark shade that we used to shade, and I'm just going to dip it into that and just do a little bit of shading around the top of the head. Just to give his head just a little bit of definition. There's little details like this that really make it look a lot better. It makes it like you've made a lot more effort and that it's taken you a lot longer than just a basic shape of a peacock. So now I've done that, I'm just going to take some of the bright blue that we were using from the Morphe 35B, and I'm just going to put a little bit more of that into the middle of his head. Then going into the black on the Morphe 35B, I'm just taking another little bent liner brush, and I'm just going to do a dot for his eye. And then underneath his eye, I'm just going to do a little patch of yellow and blue. Now, once we've got the basic shape of the head and the neck of the peacock, I'm then going to move on into the tail. So with this, I'm just going to take this dark green shade on the Morphe 35B palette still, and I'm just going to take that on my 101 BH fluffy brush, and I'm just going to take some of that, and then I'm just going to shade it into where I want the tail to be. So I'm not drawing a particular shape, I'm just shading where the tail would be. And I'm leaving it to blend into the other greens, and then I'm just blending it darker as I go down. So it's a nice seamless blend. And I'm just going to stop at the corner of my eye. We are going to go down and below, but I will do that after I've done my foundation and everything, because otherwise it will be a nightmare to try and do. So just for now, I'm going to leave it there. Just shading up, making sure it's nice and blended. And once I've got the shading, so you can see what I mean, it's just shaded where the tail is going to be. So once I've done that, I'm then just going to start doing the feathers of the peacock, and for that I'm going to be using the BH Cosmetics 106 fine liner brush, and I'm just taking some concealer and I'm just going to do circles where I want the feathers to be. So I'm just going to do circles all over where I've shaded for the peacock feathers. I'm just going to stop there for now, because like I said, I will go underneath a little bit once my foundation and all the rest of my makeup is on. So now I'm just going to take the bright green shimmery shade that we were using for the cut crease, and I'm just going to pack that on over all of the concealer dots that I've done. So now I've coloured all the dots in green, I'm then just going to take the bright blue shade from the 35B, and I'm just going to dot that and put a little dot on each circle, just creating the pattern of the peacock leaves. Once you've got the blue and the green on the feathers, I'm then just taking the Morphe 35OM palette and I'm just taking one of the reddy brown shades. I'm just going to do exactly the same thing. I'm going to go over the feathers I've done and just add a little dot of brown just to finish off the peacock feathers. Once you've completed the tail of the feathers of the peacock, I am then just gonna take a tiny little bent liner brush and I'm just gonna take some concealer and I'm just gonna do some tiny dots around the tail in between the feathers just to give it a little bit of a fuller look. Then once I've done that, I'm just going to go into the 35B palette white shade and I'm just going to go over where I've put the concealer. So once you've done the dots and the tail has begun to look a lot more fuller now, I'm just going to do the little black feathers on top of his head, and for that I'm just going to take a tiny wing liner brush again and I'm just going to take some of the black from the Morphe 35B and I'm just going to draw 4 little feathers on the top of his head. So for now, to do the liner, I am just using this Morphe gel liner in the shade Jet, and I am taking the Morphe M251 brush, which is just a really tiny brush, and I'm just going to do an eye line across from the whole of my eye, but I'm not going to take it into a wing. I'm just going to flit off camera and just get some lashes on. So now lashes are on. Before I finish the rest of the eyes, I'm just going to start doing my skin. So for that, I'm just going to start priming with the L'Oreal Infallible Pore Refining Primer, which is a tongue twister in itself. And I'm just going to pop that all over my skin where I'm going to apply my foundation. Then for foundation, I'm using the L'Oreal True Match, which is my holy grail. I never use anything else. And I'm using that on the Morphe G39 brush, and I'm just putting that all over my face. So after I've got foundation finished, I'm then just moving on into concealer, and I'm just going to pop that under both under eyes. Now normally I would go right up beside the eye artwork just to give it a nice sharp neat finish, but because we're going to come down and this one's quite smoked out, I'm not going to do that, and I'm just going to repeat the same on the other side and put a little bit down my nose. Just buff that in and then set that with the RCMA powder, and I'm then just taking the NYX Contour Pro palette and I'm just going to contour with that. I'm just using the Real Techniques sculpting brush for that. Then once I've gone around with the sculpting brush, I'm then just going to take this fluffy brush and I'm just going to take some of the shades and then just buff that out. With contour finished, I'm moving straight into blush, and for that I'm using the Peach Party Shimmer Brick by Soap and Glory, one of my absolute all-time favourite brands. And I'm just buffing that in my cheeks. Once I've finished that, I am then just going to go back to the eyes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the fluffy brush that we used for the first green, and I'm just going to take the green shade that we used, and I'm just going to pop some of that under the under eye. I'm just going to do the same on the other side, because I haven't done under there yet, because I hadn't done my face. Right, so now I've got some green under the under eye. I'm then just going to take some of the dark green shade that we put into the tail, and I'm just going to buff that in, but only till about halfway. Then I am just going to take the tiny little brush that I was originally drawing the feathers with, if I can find it. I have this horrible habit of putting things down and then they just run away and I never find them again. Okay, brush found, and I'm now going to take some concealer and I'm just going to draw a few little dots underneath my eyeline. Just carrying on the feathers that we had from before, and I'm just blending them up and going in to the feathers that we had there, just adding a few more because I think I need a couple more. And I'm just going all the way under. Then going in with the bright green, just as before, I'm just going to colour in all where I've put the concealer. Then going into the bright blue shade, I'm then just gonna do some dots into the feathers. Like so. Then for highlighter, just to top the look off, I am just gonna take the Fenty Beauty Kilowatt highlighter in the shade Trophy Wife, and I'm just going to take some of that and I'm just going to pop it all over the brow bone above the peacock. This just gives it a really nice golden glam finish. I honestly feel like since I've had this highlighter that no look is complete without it. I feel like it really just signs it off. Then just taking my little finger, I'm just going to pop some of that into the corner of my eye. I'm going to do the same on the other side. Then I'm just going to pop some on the top of my cheekbone. On the ends of my nose, and then just down the bridge. Just to finish off, I am just going to do my bottom lashes, and for that I'm using the Benefit They Are Real mascara, and I'm just going to do the bottom lashes just a little bit with that. So here is the finished look. I hope you had fun watching, and I hope you try and recreate the looks. If you do, please be sure to tag me because I'd absolutely love to see them. Also, if you could like, share and subscribe to show your support, that would mean the absolute world to me. Thank you so much again for watching, and hopefully I'll see you in my next one.